So in this video, we're gonna be talking about the 5 things that you should buy with your stimulus check that isn't guns and ammunition. So let's talk about this. But real quick, before we jump into this video, I wanna thank everybody who has subscribed to this channel over the last year and a half. We have been doing this channel for very long, but we recently reached over 100,000 subscribers. And I can't thank you guys enough for all the support you've shown me over this last year and a half. All this would not be possible without you guys. You guys are the reason why I do this. You guys are the reason why I get to live out my dreams. And I just can't thank you guys enough. And hopefully a lot of you will get to meet me out in May, May 8th and 9th. If you're not familiar, we're doing Armed in May with Route 66 down in San Bernardino on May 8th and 9th. So I hope to meet a lot of you guys out there for the event. And once again, I cannot thank you guys enough for watching this channel, supporting me and what I do on this channel, and subscribing to this channel. So thank you guys for the 100,000 subscribers. So the whole catalyst for me wanting to do this video came out of my wife and I receiving the stimulus check, like a lot of you guys probably did, and us saying, okay, we don't necessarily need this, but what should we do with it? Of course, we have savings and all of these things, and we pay our bills and all that, so we didn't necessarily need the money for anything like that. So we said, okay, what is something we can do with this whole list, with this whole video? Of course, if you actually need the money to pay your bills, to pay off debt, anything like that, you should definitely use this money for that. But for those of you who were probably gonna just try to use the money anyways on guns and ammunition, here's a list of 5 things that I think you guys should look into that isn't necessarily those things. So the first thing on my list, and it's the thing that my wife and I actually used our stimulus money on, is home security. And so what we actually used part of our stimulus money on was this Google Hello Nest thing. We had been talking about doing some sort of Ring doorbell or something like that for a while, plus the whole home security digital thing. So we decided, okay, we have this little bit of extra money. We've been talking about we wanted to do this for a while, so we decided to do that. And so that's kind of the first one on my list. And I always think it's good to think outside the box as far as security, just not guns and ammunition, but think about things like having video recorders, alarms, other things like that. Along those lines, also one of the things I think you should look into getting as well, if you don't already have, is you can see it over my shoulder right there. It's a safe. I think if you don't have a good quality safe, then you should definitely look into doing something like that. Now, going to number 4 on my list, this is gonna be kind of a little bit of a cheat, but hear me out here. It's not necessarily guns or ammunition, but I think you should look into buying firearms parts and accessories. I think if you are running low on certain part supplies, or you've been trying to find things for a while as far as parts, you should definitely look into using your stimulus money to kind of buy those items. Things like bolt carrier groups, magazines, and other things like that, rails, triggers are kind of hard to come by right now. It's kind of hit or miss on some big websites. A lot of things are out of stock right now, but I think if you have this little bit of extra cash lying around, keep your eyes on some of the websites, and you might get lucky and get to rejuvenate things like bolt carriers, parts kits, maybe even just going into looking at buying a lower receiver. That's even more of a cheat on my list, but I think a lot of people like to just have a few laying around just in case. And a lot of people in this whole situation with the lockdowns and the social unrest built out a lot of their lower receivers. So I think if you have some extra cash lying around and you can actually find some of these items like a lower receiver or part kits or barrels or bolt carriers, you should definitely look into rejuvenating those stocks that you've used. So now we're getting into the top 3 on my list, and I think this is where a lot of people just ignore these things, or they just, maybe don't even think about them. So the first one I think you should look into using your stimulus money on is something like body armor. Now, me personally, I have multiple sets of plates, plate carriers. I have soft body armor, hard body armor. I have enough body armor to actually kit out quite a few people, not just myself, but also my family. And that's also where my mindset goes to this. You might have a plate set up for yourself personally, but you might have a significant other or maybe even a child who you don't have body armor for. I know a lot of people who like to throw an extra plate and plate carrier in their car just in case, because they have some at their home, but they don't necessarily have them in their vehicle just in case something would happen. So there's companies all around that do deals quite often. One of the sponsors of the channel is Ace Link Armor. Armor, they have good bundles. They're high quality, high value. Some of their bundles are like $500, ceramic plates, good plate carriers. And if you use the code ARMScholar, of course, you'll get 10% off your order. But I always recommend just do a lot of research on the company you're going to buy from. Also, I've recommended Safe Life Defense in the past. If you're looking for soft body armor, that's a good option as well to go. If you just want to throw something in your car, you can just throw soft body armor in your car. But I think this is one of those things that's greatly overlooked by a lot of people, where they have like 27 firearms or 500 firearms and tons of ammunition and tons of parts, and they have home security and they have big safes, but they don't have a single set of plates or a plate carrier. They just completely forget about that. And this brings me into my number 2 list. And I think this is even more so goes ignored by quite a bit of people. A lot of people do have all the gear. They have the firearms, the ammunition, all the parts, the home security, the safe, the plate carriers, multiple plate carriers, but they don't have any, and a lot of people don't have any medical equipment in their home, on them, in their carry system, in their range bags, anything like that. So for example, a lot of people don't even have a tourniquet. I have multiple tourniquets. I have various types. I have cat tourniquets. These I think are the recon tourniquets. I have them in my off-body carry bags. I have some in my range bags. I have some in my bug out bags. I have some just lying around here in this like office. I have some in my safe. I just have a ton. And along that, I also have tons of other medical equipment as well. In my off-body carry bag, I have medical equipment in my range bag, in my bug out bag, in my car. So that's something I think you guys should look into as well. Now, I'm not an expert by any means on the type of medical equipment you should get, and there are tons of videos out there on YouTube that you can watch where people do in-depth like medical equipment, like bag setups. I'm looking at you, Nothing Fancy. If you guys don't know Nothing Fancy, you can probably watch like an hour to 2 hour video where he goes through all of his multiple medical kits, and I use a lot of his videos to build out some of mine as well. So there's good information out there where a lot of people have spent a lot of thought and time into building out specific kits. But I think that's one of those things that you guys should look into, is making sure you have medical equipment, especially even more so now when we had a lot of scare with COVID and civil unrest, and a lot of people had a lot of uncertainty about things that were going to happen. If you haven't looked into getting medical equipment, you should really look into it. Now, coming in at my number 1, and this is because a lot of people overlook this, even myself, I've overlooked this, and I am completely and just candidly inept in this area, and that is training. That is training in the form of medical expertise as well as being able to actually shoot. A lot of people buy tons of firearms, tons of ammunition, tons of medical gear, all of these things, but they don't get the training that goes along with it. So especially now, if you got the stimulus check and you don't need the money and it's laying around, I definitely think you should look into getting some sort of training, whether it is for your shooting ability or if it is in the medical field. And this is something I am personally looking into. And I want to ask you guys if you have any recommendations of firearms instructors that you guys would recommend, as well as medical instructors. Please drop them down in the comment section, because I am actively looking to actually better my skills in this area, because like I said, candidly, I am just completely inept in this area. Now, some honorable mentions that I thought of as well are things like self-defense liability protection through companies like USCCA or other companies like that. If you don't have those, and especially if you have a little bit extra cash laying around, I definitely recommend you look into companies like that, especially if you concealed carry. And then another honorable mention are things like your EDC setup, looking at things like pocket knives, lights, wallets, kind of honing in your system as far as EDC. So there you guys have it. Those are my 5 things that you guys should be looking to buy right now that aren't necessarily guns and ammunition with your stimulus check. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. What do you think I left off the list, and what you would recommend people look into purchasing right now with the stimulus check if they have that extra cash just laying around? And of course, all this, like I said in the beginning, is contingent on, hey, you don't need to pay bills, you don't need to pay your rent, you don't need to build up your savings, anything like that. If you just purely have this extra cash laying around, you don't need to pay your taxes or anything like that. What should people be looking into getting that isn't necessarily the common thing we see pop up quite a bit, like guns and ammunition? So if you guys like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways you do that is to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell because it helps the channel analytics and helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment and things like this. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars. This nation will be maintained by armed scholars.